The minute you break Mother Nature's rules, all hell breaks loose. So with this kind of systems logic, we need to address global challenges. We need to work on local, but we are human beings on the same planet. So act local, but think global. So your opportunities are fantastic now, and even with many political dynamics that are there around the world, you're in a very exciting time, particularly the young population here in India, which is one of the youngest on the planet. So next 20 years, you're in this amazing period of growth. But if you think sustainably, you think about addressing the needs of all of the poor on this planet, and you think of systems-based logic, you think of globalized solutions, then you're going to be very successful. You're going to be very adaptable. You should be prepared to work on any part of the planet. But of course, always think about your roots, from where you came from. Don't be afraid of your roots. You should not forget your roots from where you came, because that gives you a better confidence. So whenever I go in the world, I went the first 3 years of my school to a very small rural school where my father was a doctor. So people think of some journal editor and all these other things. But in my heart, I'm still that little child who was in that rural school, the public school. So that's where I feel India will be very transformational in the world, is our solution to this old Gandhian philosophy. India lives in its villages. So if we build most advanced technology in that sphere, so that's where your contribution, majority. I know there are many international students here, but I'm delighted you're in India. But India can be the platform for global solutions. Yeah. So with the last point, most important thing that you learn here in Symbiosis in the 2 visits I've made is it's very important you have humility to connect. So that's what Symbiosis teaches you. Symbiosis International University. They have the humility to connect. Only from humility can you get your empathy, kindness, and compassion. So only with compassion does your intuitive logic is free to discover. And so when you discover, you can be a better person, better human being. And so we are in that exciting phase. So I'm delighted that I have this, I'm grateful and delighted that I'm here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir, for this wonderful talk and for covering the topic which is so much associated with our health. And you have enlightened all of us on the topic of system-based approaches for food security by achieving balance between ecology, human health, and new technologies. Thank you very much. We can have few questions now.
Don't feel shy.
Yes, students, any questions?
Yes. Oh, very good. It's a policy. It's all, government has to mandate policy, and policy has to come from good scientific information. So there has to be government policy to science coordination, and again, humility to connect. So we need, if we can see a broad framework of our society, not just Indian society, but global society. So policy is the best framework for solution, but policy needs many people to work together. So we need dramatic change away from your narrow thinking to a broader thinking. So that's where I see global problems, ultimately in policy implementation.
Right. But the policy is basically influenced by many factors.
Yes. So
if the corporates, for example, we can bring in the corporate versus the poor people debate or something like that. So if the government the rules and regulations are already there, the law is already there, but it's not being implemented, for example, then how should we enforce, or who is to blame? We know who is to blame, but
I know. I understand. I think the global problem, how do you make the politicians who are the power and the corporates who are power? And so there's some, for example, the tax on social responsibility is a good strategy, but each is framing it differently. Ultimately, we know the path to solutions, but unless we start social responsibility and understanding of this, so it's a multi-layered mind change. I do not have everywhere it's so different. North India different, East India different. Ultimately, when you have decentralization, a village panchayat will better implement this. So I don't know. We are in a transformation in very difficult time, as you have stated. But somehow we need to make from Prime Minister Modi to our village panchayat head understand this and come out there. And the government can't provide solutions. Most of the time they cannot. So we need to take responsibility for ourselves, to our own corporate citizens, our community citizens. So in the end, community-based solutions are the best. I have many ideas. There's no one magic bullet for all of this. But here is the challenge and solution. But we human beings, we are heterogeneous. Each community is different. So we need to break through. And ultimately, solution will come from community solutions. We empower ourselves.
Hi, good afternoon.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, you should go ahead. So thank you so much for a great talk. I want to touch base on the nutrigenomics aspect that you mentioned. I've worked sometime in nutrigenomics. So you noted that the genome adjusts to the ecology, and there's a lot of data to show that Southeast Asians who migrate to North America actually have more amount and more rates of diabetes and metabolic disease. So what is the longitudinal study data? How many years does it take for your genome to adjust? How fast is it?
Very good. There is South Asia, there's a Stanford study that's showing how fast it can come. And then there is some study in the Lancet on the Pakistani population in Manchester, in that area. They say it can be even as short as 5 years. But those data are still emerging. And the Japanese too, it can be as short as 5 years.
It means the window of opportunity is to strike within those 5 years.
Correct.
Okay.
We are now finding, because the immigration in a mass at this stage took place in the 60s. So we are now gathering. There's another study on the Mexican Americans. So you have the Mexican Americans who came before, they don't have the problem. I mean, those that held on to their traditional diet in Mexico don't have the problem. But the first generation and second generation, they have adapted. And so there's some study coming on those lines. So I think they say Mexican American could be as short as 3 years. But now that problem is already moved to Mexico itself.
Thank you.
So same way, our problem has moved here to India already.
Just one small technical point. You had mentioned about the importance of oligosaccharides in the diet. Now, these have to be added externally or they are in the food?
Oh, very good. We can add externally if required in probiotic drinks or any number of foods. So we can add that externally from any number of ways. But there are enough rich sources of our traditional food like ragi and jowar and fruits. Eat more fruits of guava. So if you just eat more of our fruits and vegetables, we would be rich in these oligosaccharides. So this strategy is available to everybody, even in a rural environment. So if I look at all the fruits I went to my neighbor's house and stole and other things, they were all rich in oligosaccharides. So maybe some of the ravages of the modern diet I'm protected from, because those early 3 years I used to get all these guava, papaya, star fruit, different things. So it's very easily available. And we just need to do the science to show that we can get this. So you don't need golden rice only to get vitamin A. Papaya is plenty.
but at least those who are getting the rich diet,
Yes.
starchy diet,
Yeah.
can be added there.
We should be open to everything. That means where solution can be given locally from local foods, but if you're in an urban environment eating a lot of these things, we should feed that.
Okay, I think in the session now we can have more discussions during tea break. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and coming here. We are breaking for tea now, but before that.
My name is Radhika. I'm from SSBS. It's an honor and a great pleasure to introduce the next speaker for the symposium, Dr. Subbarao GM, Scientist D, Assistant Director, Extension and Training Division, National Institute of Nutrition, ICMR, Hyderabad. Sir has done a PhD in Health Communication from University of Hyderabad. He was ICMR International Fellow at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, Baltimore, USA in 2013. His areas of research interest are nutrition and food safety communication, with special emphasis on nutrition education for adolescents and other groups of community using different medias and methods, nutrition policy and advocacy. He has over 36 research papers in national and international peer-reviewed journals, 8 book chapters and 3 books, and many popular newspaper articles to his credit. He is currently editing a book on health communication in developing countries for Palgrave Macmillan Publishers. He presented over 35 research papers and many invited talks in various national and international conferences. He scripted and directed educational films on nutrition, food safety, health, alongside developing many communication materials. He conducted many awareness sessions and education programs on nutrition for school children, women's group, industry and academics. He coordinated the activities of the Secretariat of WHO Southeast Asia Nutrition Research Cum Action Network of 11 member countries and edited the half-yearly newsletter of the network from 2004 to 2012. He also serves as a guest faculty and resource person in communication for training programs at prestigious institutes such as University of Hyderabad, Angrao, LV Prasad Eye Institute, Foods and Nutrition Board, ICMR School of Public Health. He is the chair of the Health Communication and Change Working Group in the International Association of Media and Communication Research. He is also a treasurer re-elect of NSI, the Asian editor for the American Journal of Health Behavior. He also serves on various editorial boards of prestigious journals such as the Journal of Nutrition Education and Behavior, American Journal of Health and Behavior, Journal of Science and Technology, Education and Research. He is also an executive member, Nutrition Society of India. He holds various honorary positions such as the past president and advisor of an upcoming NGO called STARS, which works with underprivileged children. He is also a recipient of various awards and honors nationally and internationally, such as a finalist in the Nasi Scopus Young Scientist Award 2014 in Social Sciences, IAMCR Grant Award for International Association of Media and Communication Research at Dublin, Ireland, Young Investigator Grant Award from the International Association for Media and Communication Research, Platinum City Strategist Award from Foundation for Futuristic Cities, Hyderabad, Young Scientist Grant Award from PepsiCo, J.N. Bose Award for Community Nutrition, Young Scientist Award from Nutrition Society of India, Young Investigators Grant to attend 18th ICN in South Africa. Prior to joining NIN, he served in various capacities in TV, press and advertising. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir. Over to you. Thank you.
Good morning. There's still 5 minutes to the noon, so I said morning. And thank you all, and thanks Radhika for reading out scrupulously every line that has been sent out to you. I think you should have edited it a bit, and too much on labeling a person. So I thank the previous speaker, Dr. Shetty, for actually setting pace for some of my talk. And as you can see from what Radhika read out, I'm more of a social scientist working in the behavioral and social aspects and policy-related issues on nutrition. And that's the beauty of the field of nutrition and biomedical sciences in today's world, that we are trying to incorporate and get a multidisciplinary approach to most of the problems that we are trying to encounter. And there were questions about the policy and how it is to be dealt with. And I'm sure, I think I'll raise some of those issues, but I'm not completely competent enough to give you solutions and answers to all your questions. But before I start my talk, I am very sure that, although this group is a quite heterogeneous group in terms of the students drawn from various disciplines like, biotechnology. I also know people from law, biomedical sciences, nutrition, and perhaps other fields that I didn't name. It is quite a diverse field, but I think before anything, most of you and all of you, I'm sure, are consumers of food. I think we'll see my talk in that context more and try and associate with our science a bit later. I'll be dealing with the food labels for promoting public health as a public health communication approach, and what are the current issues in India and what could be the way forward. This. I'll use there. I'll run the laptop myself, no problem. Thank you. Yeah, this is in a nutshell what Dr. Shetty was talking about. That we have lots of credits to our country, that we are the 7th largest in the world, 1.2 population, second only to China, and most of the population is young today. But at the same time, we also are confronting the dual problem of malnutrition, wherein we have undernutrition, as well as the growing problems of dietary excesses, and then obesity and other things. We are in a great way contributing to global obesity, what I call globesity. The globe is becoming obese, and then India is not less. All this while we've always thought that obesity, non-communicable diseases, like diabetes or hypertension, these are all diseases of the affluent of the West. Still, in most of our social science terminology, they are called Western diseases. But I say that term should cease to exist now, that they are no more Western diseases. They have become more Oriental as well. As Dr. Shetty was rightly saying, perhaps the policy, agriculture policy, as well as the public distribution policy, also to be blamed to an extent, that we got impetus for certain kinds of crops, and people started cultivating these kinds of crops, and then people have forgotten many of the traditional food systems and the way people used to eat. And then there is onus on white polished rice, the rich man's, so-called rich man's food. But we are coming back full circle again, and then we are now also concentrating on ragi, jowar and other things, where they are delicacies of the affluent as of now. And soon, because of the cultivation, the cultivation of these crops going down, we are in for a crisis. As he said, it is a time now that we have to diversify. Dietary diversity is the most important thing. But nevertheless, putting the problem into the context, we see we have at least 10% of our population are overweight or obese. There are studies which put it at 20 to 30% as well, overweight population, and more so among women and girls. It's not just an urban phenomenon, as I said, it's also rural now. And then in this context, a lot of things are to be blamed. I don't say obesity is only because of the food habits. It's a multi-component issue that is actually driving the scientists to look at various aspects. But if you see, one of the reasons is also the processed food. He said, the hyper-processed foods. And we are all of the assumption that all processed foods or all packed foods are processed and hence they are bad for health. How many of you hold this view? And I'm sure, the most literate are nutritionally illiterate. And then I always say this, because there is an increasing view that anything that is made at home is healthy. Anything that is bought from outside, say whether it is packed, whether it is street, whether it is fast, whether it is instant, it is bad for health. How many of you hold this view? I'm sure 50% at least agree with this. Anything that is made at home is healthy. Okay, let's leave it at that. But processed food consumption has grown manifold in India, especially in the last 3 decades after the liberalization. They say it's almost 3-fold increase in consumption of processed foods, of which hyper-processed foods are also there. And then the packed foods actually fit in somewhere over there. The packed food consumption has also increased. Food, and that's where, the packed food, imagine the foods that are packed and sold to you didn't have the labels on them, didn't have any information related to them. Would you be able to choose? Or would you be able to, now you choose foods mostly on the basis of its brand name or what it is, the image that is displayed on it or the advertisement that you've seen. So food labels that way are becoming important, that the regulation is also looking at using food labels as a medium to talk to consumers, to empower them to make their own food choice. So therefore, they are a very important public health communication tool, and education about them needs to be taken up really seriously in a country like ours, where there is a shift in the eating and dietary patterns. As I say, food labels are essential source of information for the consumer, because they help you make an effective control and choice on what you eat. For instance, there could be many reasons. For health reasons, perhaps, somebody is, say, hypertensive, wants to control sodium. Somebody is, pre-diabetic or diabetic and wants to, excess control on the calories or the fat or maybe the sugar. Or somebody for safety reasons, how long the food that is packed in the pack is safe to eat, how it is to be stored, and how it is to be ensured that the food remains safe for consumption. And for instance, for religious reasons, in Indian context, you have vegetarianism and non-vegetarianism, and you have the veg and non-veg symbol, which is a development in Indian context only. Elsewhere in the world, you probably don't see anywhere whether the food is veg or non-veg. Do you all recognize the green dot and the brown dot on foods? And that's gone into the public so easily. But that could be for religious reasons. Some people want to opt only vegetarian food. Some people want to opt or have no objection consuming the animal food as well. And for ethical reasons, somebody wants to eat only organic food. Somebody wants to eat the food that has been made by certain social groups only. And labels provide all this information to you. And they are that's the reason why I call them the potentially powerful tools for communication, public health communication, and improving food choices. And they also serve a lot of purposes for various stakeholders, that for public policy, that labels reduce information asymmetry. That is, if there are 2 cookies manufactured by 2 different companies, but if their pack is similar, the information that is to be displayed also has to be similar. Somebody displays some different kind of information and the other person displays different kind of information. That asymmetry is curtailed to a large extent by regulation on labeling, and it provides consumers with information that is required and helps public make informed choices, and then it stimulates healthier eating. For consumers, yes, it gives a lot of information and then you can choose healthy foods. For consumer associations who often say the consumer is the king and the consumer needs to be given all the rights to make food choice, again, it serves a purpose. And for food industry, it serves as a good medium to propagate about their food, how their food is little different from the others. You would have seen the cookies that talk about, jug of milk pouring in and changing into biscuits. You would have seen the, liberal servings of cashew that are said to be packed in your, cookies. All these on the label as well, you see those pictures. They say how they are different from the rest of them. Perhaps somebody is showing a grown muscle and then saying that our food is good in protein and helps you do that. Foods, the labels can do a variety of things for the industry as well. They demonstrate good corporate social responsibility practices also. For instance, on the label they say every pack of this particular chips you buy 1 rupee goes for a social cause. It's there on the label as well, right? So all these it serves. So I'll apply a social behavioral model called elaboration likelihood model, which says that the human mind processes information in two broad ways. One in the central root, one in the peripheral root. The peripheral root doesn't need much of invocation of the internal knowledge that you've got. Certain things are imbibed into our mind. Like, you see a red signal, you have to stop. You see certain icons on the washrooms, you know where to go. Right? You never commit a mistake there, right? They don't need any knowledge. You need not think, this picture is drawn this way, so this means, no, you don't, because it's symbol, it's heuristics, right? But there is certain information that you will have to invoke the latent knowledge that you've got. You have to see how this knowledge is to be applied in taking a decision, right? For instance, all the figures that are there in terms of nutrition information on a label, how many kilocalories for how many grams of this food or a serving of this food, what a serving actually means, needs a lot of processing of internal information. But label serves both these processes to give you information. So what is the current scenario? Current scenario of food labeling in India, that since the Food Safety Standards Authority of India has formed, earlier the labeling used to be largely under the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act, PFA, which was 1958 kind of an act. And then there were different acts that were dealing with various aspects. For instance, the meat products were being dealt under Meat Products Order. The fruit products were being dealt under the FPO, the Fruit Products Order. And all these things have been merged into one act, and then we are aligning with the global scenario, trying to align with the global scenario of Codex Alimentarius, wherein we are trying to, because the foods these days are crossing territories. We are getting foods in an unprecedented way from various parts of the world, which we never saw in our childhood. Especially, people of my generation, because I consider I'm little older generation to the generation sitting here. But if you really see, we never got these many foods. So the food law has been integrated in such a way that the label on the packed food is necessary, and once the label is there, it should not contain any declaration that is false or misleading. There is a regulatory authority that is seeing this. These are all little technical terms that, the law as it is there, I'm trying to give you. But, just bear with me for a while. The label in packaged foods shall be in such a manner that will not become separate from the consumer. So it has to be stuck to the food pack. These are the conditions. And contents in the label shall be clear and legible, and there are many arguments. People say it is in such a tiny font that I cannot read. So it is only, it's only a formality that the label information is there, but I cannot actually read it. But you should also see in the context of the size of the pack. So as per the size of the pack, certain things have been laid out in the law. What percentage is to be allocated for the front of pack labeling, what percentage is to be allocated to different information that is dealt with. And every package of food shall carry the name, all the other details. If anybody is carrying any packed food with you, you can just open and see that there is information. Now it has been made mandatory to also have a call center number and an email ID, just in case of any adverse effect after consuming food. You are expected, or you can contact the vendor. Okay, and all these and information on there is also a list of ingredients which is necessary. Most of us don't see this. I'll show you with some examples at a later point of time. But most of us don't see a lot of the information that is actually mentioned on the label. But there are also ingredients. Ingredients should be displayed in descending order. The ingredient that is used maximum should be given first, and the ingredient that is used least should be given towards the end. The amount and type of fatty acid should be mentioned, and numerical information on vitamins and minerals if it is clean. And every package of food shall carry international numerical identification number of colors and flavors. There are additives like colors, flavors, and other things preservatives that are used. There are certain, permitted colors and permitted additives should be used in permitted foods. It is not that the color or additive is permitted and it can be used in any food. No, they are to be used in certain foods only. The name and complete address of the manufacturer and complete address, as I said, all these are important, including the lot code, batch identification number. You would have seen that code number on the food. Why is it important? Can anybody guess? Can anybody guess why it is important? The foods would have been manufactured, say in a month, say about 10,000 packs. But each one has certain batch number and code number. And you never know after the food gets out of the manufacturing unit, which part of the country it goes to. Just in case of any adversity, that has to be recalled. If the food has to be recalled, it is not easy for them to track what all parts it went to. They could just make a public announcement saying all that containing this batch or code number should be recalled from the market. It makes it very easy. And then, there is also date of manufacture and date of packaging. Tell me, is there any difference between best before and expiry or use by date? You all see for this. I am sure all those who read labels, if I ask you now, how many of you read labels? I think 100% hands will raise here. But if I ask you what all you see on the label, everybody says the brand name, the price, maximum retail price, and the use by date or the expiration date. Not beyond that, 100%. Okay, there's a little difference between best before and then use by date. For products like bread, for products like dairy products or maybe milk or something like that, there is a use by date, which means it is not safe to use the food after that date. But a best before date need not necessarily be that. It may compromise flavor, perhaps a little bit of taste, or perhaps certain other aspects, physical aspects, or maybe the other aspects of the food than actually the safety of food. So I'm not encouraging you to eat foods that are beyond best before date, but you need not worry so much as you have to worry for an expiration date or use by date when you are trying to consume food, say. So when there is an expiration date or use by date, it is necessary to give specific dates. You have to look for this. If any manufacturer is not displaying this, they are liable for action, penal action, right? Similarly, if there is a best before date, it can just say it is best before 12 months or 8 months or 6 months or 3 months or whatever the shelf life of the product is going to be. I'll just quickly cover these. I'll not go into much details. And then instructions to use are also there on the food. You get a pack of noodles, how to make it. Every instruction is detailed on the pack. I mean, all this is being served by the food label. We have never, given much attention to it. And nutritional food and the food claimed to be enriched with nutrients such as minerals and proteins should also have the quantity and the source of that enrichment. For instance, sometime back I've caught hold of a pack of namkeen which says B complex vitamins, enriched with B complex vitamins. You just turn it on and see on the ingredients list, there is nothing related to B complex. Okay? And then the person who was interested in the policy may ask me, what did you do after that? Yeah? I told the local food inspector about it. I don't know what he did after that. Principal display panel, its area, size and letters are mentioned. As I said, as per the pack size, the percentages are given. I mean, that is nothing much to tell and it's to understand. I hope you all understand these brown dot and brown. Yeah, this is the ag mark. Have you seen this mark? On what products it comes? On what products it comes? Khadi products. Haldi. Honey, yes, honey it comes, haldi it comes, all the agricultural products, and this is a quality symbol. These two are quality symbols. They ensure a certain, the quality standards that the product has stuck to. That only then these are given. But it is not mandatory for all products related to agriculture or agricultural products like honey or maybe attas or maybe masalas or maybe mirchi or maybe any other product that you're talking to. This is not mandatory, but the manufacturer goes and gets this mark to tell the consumer that my product is quality tested and it sticks to certain quality standards. Similarly, ISI. ISI is also voluntary, and then most importantly, ISI is a must on all bottled water that you take. You go to rural areas these days, also you get bottled water. But the moment you get bottled water, the first thing that you have to do is you have to see whether on the label it has an ISI mark or not. Okay, it ensures certain standard. Whether it is how good it is a secondary issue, but yeah, it is. And then, there are certain things that have to be mentioned on the labels. For instance, baby foods. are not supposed to be advertised in Indian context. There is a ban on advertising of baby foods. But the baby food should mention very clearly that mother's milk is the first best choice. So it is important. Mother's milk is the best for your baby. That is compulsory to be displayed in a certain size of font, because one has to promote exclusive breastfeeding and right complementary feeds. Only then these are all supplementary. Okay, so that needs to be displayed. Of course, alcohol and other things also should not be advertised in Indian context, but there is a lot of surrogate advertising that takes place. You see these advertisements of Royal Challenge, Royal Stag, and Kingfisher, mineral water, or music CDs which you've never seen in the market. You know what they are advertising for. Pretty well. You know what they are advertising for, but it is a given scenario. So that is surrogate advertising. So this package and also MSG, the monosodium glutamate, that the reason why Maggie has been caught, and then that entire controversy has become a different controversy altogether. But monosodium glutamate according to Indian legislation as of now, is supposed to be unsafe for babies below 1 year or children below certain age group. So when MSG is there, it should be written, it is not recommended for children of this age group, 0 to 12 months. It is not recommended. It should be clearly displayed on the label, as far as the regulation that exists now. But world literature is actually saying in a different way that MSG can be permitted, but we still are stuck to this particular regulation. There are many other things that have to be declared very clearly. And the nutrition labeling has been made compulsory since 2011. 2009 there was a regulation, and nutrition facts have to be very clearly mentioned on the label. Information on amounts of the calories have to be mentioned, and in that very clearly it should be mentioned how much is coming from carbohydrate, how much is coming from fat. Within fat, saturated fats and trans fats have to be very clearly mentioned. And then one should also mention how much is coming from fat, and then protein should be mentioned. And then we also have certain things about, people are now asking why sodium is not mentioned. It's still not compulsory as far the nutrition labeling is concerned. But how many of you have ever turned to the nutrition information declaration on the food pack when you're buying it? I am not saying packed foods are the only ones that you are thinking in terms of the toffees, the chocolates, the cookies, or the chips. Even atta you get in terms of packed food now. The single ingredient ones. Oil comes in packed form. Everything comes in packed form. But how many of us really bother to see some of this information? Some of this information may not be too relevant to the single ingredient products. For an atta, what else? I mean, even in that they mention how much protein comes from the wheat atta, how much, but fats and other things, they are not mentioned. So framework for claims, there are other things on the label also, apart from nutrition information, the product related information. There are information about nutrition claims and health claims which are very, very important. And in Indian context, we still have some regulations still coming up, no clear regulations on this. Nutrient content declaration is there, and nutrient comparative claims. This is better than this. It is better than, I'll show you some examples a little later. Nutrient function claim, how a particular nutrient helps in your health. Other function claims, it has beneficial effects. For instance, you take my product, your bones will be stronger. So this kind of claims people make. For making these claims as well, there should be a proper scientific evidence that is established, and there are various levels of scientific evidence that is mandated as per the regulation that needs to be given. Disease of risk reduction. Somebody says you take this, you will not become old or something like that, you will remain younger. So these things, in Indian context, if you see globally, there are various regulations that have been mentioned. In Indian context, if you see nutrient function claims and other function claims are in a draft stage, and draft has been put open for public, in the public domain for discussion, and now I think it will be adopted very soon. And what type of claim? Is it a nutrient claim? As I said, there is this nutrient in our product, or nutrient comparative claim, this nutrient is better off in our product than a particular food. But how that claim needs to be made, I'll show you some examples a little later. And statement of fact, amount of nutrient present but not nutrient content claim. They just say that in this product you have 5% of this particular nutrient. So that's one kind of a claim. And in health claims, whether it has a function, nutrient function, or whether it has other function, or it can reduce some disease. So, of course, dietary guidance needs to be given, and all these actually make sense in a particular food profile. What food category and in association with what? For instance, I may be conscious about the calories that I am consuming. For an undernourished child, the calories may be very important